Hare Krishna, Gauranga. So just I wanted to share a few thoughts um, from something that had kind of occurred to me yesterday. I was out playing basketball in my local court, and it's something I haven't done in about maybe 10 years. I used to regularly when I was a bit younger, definitely when I was a kid as well. I used to go out and shoot the ball around and play about. And I was pretty good actually for a non-professional or for anybody that wasn't in a team or anything like that. I was pretty decent. And it gave me the idea of what is naturally there, what starts to come out of you, because you never forget things to a certain extent, of course. Like you learn to go a bike when you're a kid, and then you don't do it for years maybe, and then you start going on a bike, slowly but surely it comes back to you. Or if you used to be into bodybuilding and you're doing weights, doing press ups, sculpting the body, getting big muscles or whatever kind of muscles, and then you stop doing it, you lose all the definition. But then if you do it again, you get muscle memory. It starts coming back. Your definition forms up really quick. So this is like Krishna consciousness. It's been millions and millions of births that we've been here in this material world, and we've forgotten, we've become covered. So just like it was very easily for me, without any practice, without hardly any fitness, to jump out there and start shooting the ball around, in many senses, in many ways, it is kind of easy to actually pick Krishna consciousness back up. One main important point is that, of course, Krishna is trying so hard to give us the opportunity to be Krishna conscious. And when you are Krishna conscious, he's trying even harder to keep you in that platform because he wants us to come back. This is the point. One verse in the Bhagavad Gita describes this. It is chapter 4, verse 10, and it says, Vita raga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashutaha bahavo jnana tapasha putamad bhavam agataha. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. So that's just a short introduction there to Prabhupada's purport on that point. We're so covered, we cannot even imagine that we have a blissful nature with an eternal body full of joy, full of knowledge, Satchit Ananda. We can't even think that we could be anything else other than what we are now. When we started off learning to walk as babies, who would ever have thought that we could go from walking to running to jumping to climbing to stepping in a car, to using your hands to do so many things, using your mind and intelligence to think up things and do things. It's impossible. You can barely put that first step on the ground. When you're completely unfit, or if you're overweight, say, or something like that, you can't imagine ever getting into some fitness, being able to swim, being able to run, So these examples are small things. The bigger picture is, of course, that we can't imagine, and we've completely become disillusioned from ever having a spiritual nature. But we do. We are eternal servants of Krishna. That is the position that gives us the highest happiness. And if we start engaging in devotional activities, becoming a little bit spiritual, we can actually very quickly reawaken that love for Godhead. There's a couple of verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that I remembered that also illustrates that point very nicely. Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 106 says, Shravanadi Kriya Taraswarupa Lakshana Tatashta Lakshane Upajaya Premadana. The spiritual activities of hearing, chanting, remembering, and so forth are the natural characteristics of devotional service. The marginal characteristic is that it awakens pure love for Krishna. So this is a natural thing for the human being, to chant, to hear, and to remember. This is what we do, and we're engaging that anyway. We like chanting. We like chanting the glories of football players and basketball players, and pop stars, and our friends, and ourselves, and our parents, and whatever it is. We like to hear different music, different discussions, topics, whether it's politics, whether it's people like listening to podcasts from influential speakers, so on and so forth. We like hearing philosophies, and of course we like to remember. We definitely like to go over all our old histories, stories from the past. We like to hear about other people's histories and biographies and different things, or autobiographies, whichever one it is. But nonetheless, these things can be used in a higher way if we hear, chant, and remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's the most natural thing. There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 10th canto, and it's speaking basically that these ears are perfected when they're hearing Krishna's flute, and then these lips are perfected when they're tasting Krishna's prasadam, like that. So it's saying these eyes are perfected when they're looking at the wonderful form of the Lord, and so on and so forth. I think it's in chapter 80 or something. It's the pastimes when Sudama Brahmin goes to see Krishna in Dwarka, So this verse is saying what actually is the use of all these senses if they're not engaged in the service of the Lord, and what benefit are they to us? Because then we're suffering, because the senses can lead us all over the place with their flickering nature. So the other thing comes, verse 107. It's probably a more famous verse than the other one, so a lot of devotees definitely have heard this one. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunaya Shravanadi Sudachiti Koro Ye Udaya. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So you can imagine having been asleep for 10 hours, 12 hours, and then you wake up completely unaware of what's going on around you. It takes a little it takes the alarm to go off, you snooze button, then it goes off again, then you get up, you have to shower, brush your teeth, shower, do your thing. A lot of people take, not devotees of course, but a lot of people take cups of coffee to kick the senses in, just to get alert, just to even get a little bit of spark of life. So if you imagine we've been asleep for all these millions of births, experiencing different bodies, different pleasures and pains in the material world, and then all of a sudden we're chanting Hare Krishna. It's becoming gained from the proper source. The knowledge, the experience, the taste is now getting taken from the proper source for the first time in millions of years, untold, eternal years in many ways, eternally conditioned. Nityabada. So, what do we do now? It takes time. It takes time to reawaken that love. There was an amazing thing I heard, an analogy was given by my wife one time. She was saying that, with kids, we don't necessarily love them straight away. Even when they're born, we think, oh, it's great, this is my kid, they're here. But that love takes time to develop once you start watching them walk around, once you start feeding them and helping them and seeing them learn, and they just give so much pleasure. So it's the same thing. Krishna, we don't love him straight away. The devotees we may necessarily not get on with straight away, but once you start to engage with them in devotional service, all the lower principles of divisions of caste, colour, country, creed, whatever it is, that all falls away, because we're gaining pleasure from the relationship of serving Krishna together. And another thing comes as well on this concept of, like for example, fitness. I was just saying that it took a little bit of time for me to just get the back into the swing, but it's still, the body remembers. So we have different skills, whether it's by our conditioning, whether it's our karma, whether it's, time, place and circumstance, the country we live in, or the people who surround us, what we're exposed to. We have different inherent skills and talents that we can utilize for Krishna's service. Yukta Vairagya, utilize everything surrounding us in a way to serve Krishna. So if you have amazing skills as a cook, then naturally this is the best religion in the world. This is the kitchen religion, Krishna consciousness. So cook for Krishna, cook for the devotees, cook for your family, cook for the brahmacharis, wherever you are. If you have good physical strength, grow vegetables, go in the garden, or go out and book distribution, go out in Harinam, play Mardanga, play Karatal. Carrying the harmoniums is quite a back-breaking thing, so carry the Harinam harmonium and go out and chant for 3-4 hours. Engage that physical strength in the service of Krishna. If you have a lot of intelligence and a capacity for study, for learning, for gathering more and more and more knowledge, study shlokas, study all the Srila Prabhupada's books, read everything cover to cover, and then present it in in classes, seminars, or short videos like this. Just give that knowledge out, preach. So we have these inherent abilities and skills that can be used to serve Krishna. They're all God-given talents. This thing is God-given as a saying that goes around in the material sense, because people know that their highest abilities don't come from their own training and practice. Yes, we can nurture them by practicing and training, like we have to do in Krishna consciousness. We have to take shelter of the spiritual master who guides us and cares for us and puts us on the path again every time we slip off. But ultimately speaking, they're God-given. These football players and sports stars and different things, when they score goals or when they get points in whichever sport it is, they're always putting their hands up to God and blowing kisses to God and all this kind of thing, thanking God. Even when they're not religious sometimes, because that's what you do. You thank God. You thank the higher power. Because that's the acceptable thing to do. That's the cultural thing to do. So what we are saying is, you can see all these little signs that we are God conscious, that there is a source of the higher nature and abilities of our true selves. So just keep heading towards that. Keep following the signs. We have got the ability. We are eternal souls. It is inside us and it can be brought out. And when you do start doing it, don't panic if it doesn't come straight away. Just like getting the muscle definition back, or getting the running times back up, or if you're in the kitchen and you're making some fancy meals, you forgot the recipe, just keep going and it'll come back. The abilities are there. Krishna won't take it away. That's the one thing that never loses us, is our right to perform devotional service. So whether it's the time frame of 10 years or 100 years or 1,000,000 years, we will always be able to come back round to where we started, is with Krishna. So I just wanted to share that little few points. And of course, Hare Krishna. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.